Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of They Say. This is called Cultivating Inclusive Team Culture. And I have like this rock star, this all-star, somebody I deeply admire. I think I say this every week, but guys, like I really take the time to think about who's going to be on They Say and try to be very intentional about the impact and how that person has either impacted me or I've seen the work that they're doing to bring this out so that we can get true change, like true change and true information that can help us propel to that next level. So I am honored to have Shantera here. She is a legend. She is a trailblazer. She is who I want to be like when I grow up. I'm honored that she took this Wednesday to talk to us about just change management, inclusion. Gosh, we're going to have a really good conversation. And she is the one to have it with because she definitely has set the tone and the stage, not just here in Houston, but I would say on a national level where she's really making true impact. So I'm honored she said yes. So Shantera, without further ado, please introduce yourself to the They Say audience.
Hi, They Say audience. I am Shantera Chatman, the president of Power Consulting. We help our clients build strong cultures through strategic planning, communications, change management, as well as cultural awareness.
See all of that in a nutshell. So and why not now? Like I feel like now is so important because there's so much going on in the world where it relates to DEI, where it relates to change, where it relates to us possibly getting a new president. Just so much going on. So why I think this is a great time. And then with this, the great debate of remote work or not to remote or to do a hybrid. There's so many things that we can just dive into. So I'm not gonna keep rambling on. I am going to just ask Shantera to kind of tell us how your journey started because it's truly remarkable.
My journey started. I graduated from Texas A&M in 1998 and immediately went into consulting. So I've been a consultant my entire career. I was at Booz Allen Hamilton consulting firm for 13 years where NASA was my client. So I worked here in Houston for NASA as a strategic management consultant, IT consultant for a long time because my degree is in information and operations management. So, and after I left Booz Allen, I moved into a smaller consulting firm, North Highland, but that allowed me to almost go bigger because in Houston, we have NASA, we have the medical center, and we have oil and gas. So I went into the oil and gas industry and started to work there. And that's where my passion for change really started to kick in a lot more in the oil and gas industry because they do so much changing. I mean, everything seems to kind of spin around them at times. And I started to work a lot more in the change management industry. From there, in 2018, started Power Consulting.
So Marlon says hello. Hello, Marlon. We send our greetings. So it seems like you're always ahead of the curve. So to hear you that you came out of college and is like, I'm just going to go straight to consulting. What made you that? I feel like that's not a traditional route. So what made you even think that was something you wanted to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was recruited by other companies, like the CIA and Northrop Grumman and all of them, working on the stealth bomber because IT was IT, right? It was right before the year 2000. So everyone was trying to find the next hot stars out of college for the Y2K issues that they thought were going to happen with technology. But for me, I kept saying to myself, I like people. I like being able to be that person in the middle, someone who understands the IT, but also really understands the business. So I went the consulting route because I felt like I could have the best of both worlds. And at the time, Booz Allen Hamilton was great because they didn't require me to do a ton of traveling like some of the other larger consulting firms did. And so staying in Houston and being able to work for NASA at that time, that was just like the icing on the cake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's almost that kind of like Hidden Figures, but it's probably a little bit more diverse back then, right?
Yes. Yeah. And 98, it was more diverse. It was still one of those things when I look back on it now. That's where my journey with change really started because I was always the only.
Yep.
in the room. And for anyone who doesn't know what the only is, the only woman or the only Black
Yep.
person, I was both. And I was 23 years old going into an environment where there was these older white men. And when I say older, we're talking 60s white men. And they didn't know how to deal with me. I mean, at that time, you couldn't rent a car unless you were 25. So I couldn't rent a car for travel or anything. So anytime they wanted to send me somewhere, I had to have someone else co-signing for something.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my first meeting at the NASA facility, and everyone's going around the room talking about where they were on the
Mhm.
first shuttle, for the first shuttle. And I was like, you don't want me to answer that. I was one of 75 people, you know.
It's all feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it was a good opportunity for me to learn from. And a lot of people will ask, even going to Texas A&M at a time when I did, I was the first in my family to graduate from college,
Wow.
and all of that. And so to be able to go to a university like A&M, not everybody was happy with me saying I was going to A&M, because A&M. A lot of the history that comes from Texas A&M, and even now with a lot of the controversy, that stuff has been happening for years. But for me, I felt like it was I needed to be there to learn what the real world was going to be like, because um, the real world is definitely not all, one doesn't all look the same. And going to a place like NASA, where I knew that they would be like, there was going to be a huge culture shock. I
Yeah.
feel like A&M prepared me for that, because there was times when I was not embraced.
Wow.
And the culture was like, okay, she's too young, or she's Black, or she's whatever. I had to deal with all of that there.
Right.
And I had to learn how to do what I'm doing now and working with my clients
Mm.
to do. And that's why I always tell them my why for starting Power Consulting was to be the change I always wish I had.
Can we just pause right on that? That right there alone, if we really took the time as individuals to understand our why, right? Why we do what we do, what makes us do what we do, and then embody your why and understand that your why is just not about you. It should be about something greater than you. So I applaud you for that, because most people's whys are a little selfish.
Yeah. And well, to me, it's just so deeply rooted, because when you think about doing the work that I've been doing and being in the spaces that I've been in Texas, it's there. And so you would be lying if you didn't say that there were some cultural issues, or there was going to be some kind of door closed or obstacle or hurdle that you had to overcome. I feel like that just pushed me forward more, and
Mhm.
that made me want to do this work even more and do it well, not just do it because it's something that the trend. It's because this is what I've wanted to do for a long time: change cultures for the next generations.
That's powerful. But you're right, though, because I feel like change management has become a little trendy, and DEI has become a little trendy. It's almost like putting on your clothes. Everybody wants to talk about it, or everyone has become an expert to it. But it makes me kind of sit back and hear that you are not new to this. You're true to this. So to be able to have these type of conversations, these are intentional conversations, and that's why I was like, Shantera, I need you on They Say, because there's so many different voices right now. And we're definitely in a world pivot. We're not just in a pivot in Texas. This is a world pivot where we're coming up against, kind of similar to affirmative action. DEI is kind of being pushed aside. And then people are not understanding the importance of change management. And it just seems like the corporate culture could definitely use more leadership and more spaces for individuals to really learn and cultivate and professional development. But those are things that are not necessarily, a lot of these organizations don't necessarily pay for that. They do like a town hall, or they do like a road show. So, but then they wonder where the lack is. So how do you speak to that? That was a lot. I know I gave you a lot. I'm sorry.
I'm going to address the DEI part first, and what the companies tend to do. When they do town halls, or they say, "Hey, we're going to get together for our annual team offsite, and we're going to have someone come in and teach unconscious bias or the importance of diversity." They're checking a box,
Right.
because to do that with a mass group, that's going to no one's going to be able to completely engage. And especially if you say, we're going to do it for the first hour of the session. The first hour, really? That's all, you know? So it's really, right away,
Mhm.
it's going to be an audience where there's going to be real engagement and real trust created, because you want to be able to build a safe space up front. And that takes a little bit of time in your hour. So now you've used up 10 to 15 minutes of that. So now your hour is down to 45 minutes and you're trying to get all of this important stuff in.
Right.
And companies don't see that.
Right.
They also don't see, if you do spend the 1 hour giving the foundation, that you have to follow that thing up.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, behavioral change falls right in there
Yeah.
with that. Making sure they understand the behaviors that come along with trying to change a culture,
Mhm.
changing diversity policies, creating an equitable workplace. That means people have to start changing, and that's not overnight. So when you hear the stories about, oh, DEI is dead or DEI didn't work because you thought that DEI was going to fit in your 2 hour
Yeah.
team building box.
Yep.
No, DEI, first of all, should be embedded in everything that you do.
Right.
And then we start to go back, inspect, and adapt and look over again. It's an evergreen process, which is what I tell my clients. Don't think that because I'm here and I'm fabulous, I'm going to get it done in 4 hours for you. Get this done in 4 hours, but I'm going to leave you with all of these other things that you need to be doing if you don't want me back.
Right.
But there are other things that's going to come up. Unconscious bias is not the only way
Yeah.
that you're going to work with your culture. Understanding equity is not the only way. And on
Yeah.
the change management side of things, I work a lot with behavioral change management. There's organizational change and then behavioral change. And I'm really into ensuring that the people change.
Yeah.
So the behavioral piece is really important. And what I tell most people that I'm like, oh, I know what change management is. Really, tell me what you do.
Right.
Because
Right.
what I do may be different, because I'm starting at the very beginning and understanding who's all involved. I'm doing a full stakeholder analysis to understand if they even do your managers like this new thing, this new policy, this new boss, this new widget, whatever it is. And if they do, that doesn't mean that the workers do. So
Right.
you have to do all of that up front before we even start to strategize on how you're changing a company or changing a culture. And
Mhm.
then there's strategic communications that's happening. There's training that's happening.
Yeah.
There's value realization that's at the end that a lot of companies don't touch. And I do. I lay into that so much with my clients. Is I want to make sure that you get something out of the money that you put in.
Right.
A lot of the oil and gas companies are spending, 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even more millions of dollars because they're putting it out everywhere.
Right.
They're not realizing, $500,000 in value. Really? No, we need more than that. So let's put together a plan that's going to allow you to see value that's indicative of the money that you put in.
That's good. That's good. So that's where that strategic planning comes in.
That's where the strategic planning comes in. I mean, because it's in every little thing that I'm doing and that my team is doing. We're like, okay, how does this look?
Yeah.
And is this aligning with the goal? And if we have not defined a goal in the front, there's no way we're going to know if we made it at the back.
That's powerful. So you got to define your goals. So
Yeah.
I think instead of like, I know in bank, like coming at the industry, I was in banking, our leadership would often tell us, don't just throw stuff at the wall and hope it sticks, right? Um, they would tell us that we need to have some type of skin in the game and really invest in a process so that we can measure if this is a success or if it's an absolute failure. So I think that is a good point to bring up, the importance of, if you're going to invite these individuals in to do these type of work, because it's very much needed, being just as invested into having them there as you are into the process and really seeing it through.
Yeah, because they get impatient. And
Yeah.
everyone has their bosses, right? Depending on how large the organization is, and and it doesn't matter if it's a change project or even if it's a cultural awareness project. Somebody's saying, "Okay, when am I going to see results?"
Right.
The true answer to that is eventually.
Okay.
The answer to that is, depending on the organization, we're going to see this much in 6 months, this much in a year, more the next year, and on and on and on. So that's why I'm always doing the 30-day check-ins, and then we go into the 60 and the 90 up front. to lay a foundation for clients who are trying to, maybe speak to their bosses and say,
Right.
this is what we're seeing, so they can
Right.
get some trending data. You may not get to the very end for another couple of years, but we're trending in the right direction.
Mm. Interesting. So you measure that. So how do you measure the trending? Like, how can you be like, okay, boss, this is what we've got? Well, how does one measure that?
You can, so if it's a tool,
Yeah.
say it's some kind of new something that you put in. If
Mhm.
it's a tool, you're measuring the user adoption.
Okay.
And so that is a huge term in change management, is user adoption, because that's what we do. We go out and engage to get user adoption of a process, of a new leader, a new culture, or a new thing. So it's okay, how many people are using this thing? We rolled it out 30 days ago. We have 100 people in our group, and only 10 say they actively use it.
Wow.
No. But we set goals up front. What was the goal for after 30 days? Was the goal 30%? So now
Right.
we have to figure out, if we only have 10, how to get to the rest, right? How to get to the other 20 at least, and try to really get the ball rolling. And that's how you measure. You create that upfront. That's what I'm saying. Put some metrics out there. Even if they're not good, you want to have something that you can tweak later, because those 10 people may tell you, the only reason why I get value out of this tool is because I did something extra,
Right.
and you're like, oh, so the tool is not working on its own. I got to do this and this. That also helps my team, because now we can go back and retrain the right way.
Mhm.
We can change the messaging. We can send things out. We can put up signs, all of the things. So going back and touching your people, and that's the same even with diversity and cultural
Yeah.
awareness type consulting. We have to do those listening sessions. It's all about engaging with the people who are the change is impacting the most, not the leaders, because the leaders, they're paying, but the people who it's changing their job, it's
Mhm.
changing how they work with their team, changing how they do their business. Those are the people who are going to tell you the truth. They're going to get it real. I'm like,
Mhm.
trash. They
Yeah.
made us do that. This is every 2 years they start a new thing. And I've heard that a lot with diversity is, you know, every year or so they get all on their high horse and make us go to all of these trainings, but nothing ever changes. It would be different if they actually did the work to change. And I
Mhm.
so much to where people are fed up, because
Right.
not that you're making them do some type of cultural awareness or whatever. It's because you don't follow up to get the behaviors changed within the organization. They
Mhm.
never see it come to fruition. And
But
so,
do you think that it doesn't come to fruition, A, because maybe they don't really have the true time is not being invested because they have a million other things going on. So I think that's where the checking of the box comes in, because a lot of situations that we go through in life, we tend to check a box because we don't necessarily have the time versus really making a true commitment and a true investment to the change.
exactly. And so when someone calls me and says, hey, I want you and your team to come and work on this diversity issue. We're having trust problems where people are clashing when they didn't used to. And now I feel like we're starting to, see the signs of an unraveling of a team, and they don't feel like it's equitable anymore. No one feels included, all the things. I start with a conversation with the leader with explaining how long it's going to take to build back up,
Mm,
and let them know that it's not just about me coming in for a day, or even me coming in with my team for a week or a month or two. There's
right.
still work that has to be done outside of the times that we're in your space with you. And so that's why a lot of times I will leave the leaders with a checklist.
Mm,
Say, here are the things that you need to be doing at day 1, day 30, 30, 60, day 90. And then we're calling back and we're following up with those clients and we're saying, how's it going?
mhm.
Did anything work? Did it not work? And if they say absolutely not, the team is falling apart still, we're going to come back, and we're probably not going to really charge you, a ton of money to do that, because that was on us to try to help you.
Right. And see, that's very admirable of you, right? Because I think it's almost like a partnership between you and your you and your clients. It's truly a partnership of you wanting to see them successful and you being invested in their success as much as they are. So I think that's why it's important to hire and do business with people that are just as invested in your work as though it's theirs, and want to see you really move the needle. I think that's where the intentionality comes in, to really find that partner that really can help you go that extra mile and really make a cultural shift.
Yeah, and I know that people will throw around that partner word a lot too, even when I'm writing proposals and I'm saying, I want to partner with you.
Right.
I'm trying to define what that looks like so they can understand it, even if they're strangers and are just reading it. And for us, we're trying to be those strategic partners with our clients. We don't want to be the one and dones. We
Right.
want to be someone that you're comfortable enough with that you call us back and say, hey, I know we used you, a year ago or even 6 months ago on these projects. We loved it. We want you back in here because the team really does, feel like they were able to be open and honest and we were able to move the needle, forward. Now we can move it even further. And I'm grateful that I have some clients that feel that way, that they call back and they're saying, hey, we have this, you are our go-to. You
Right.
go-to for this or go-to for that. But that's what I wanted. I wanted to build a community of partners where we are, as you know, using your thing, changing the world, but changing their worlds by doing these initiatives, one initiative at a time.
That's good. And then the fact that I love the fact that you're very diverse in who you help. So you can go from the Fortune 100 down to the Fortune 500, down to that mid organization that hasn't actually hit that 500 or 100 space, but you're very diverse in your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one, we don't all start out big and gigantic, right? I'm getting where I'm a work in progress, and so many other ones are too. And then there are also, when it comes to change, you can see the results of your change faster. They're realized faster in the smaller organizations because
Yep.
there's less bureaucracy.
Yep.
There are less people that have to check off on a change or on an initiative or on a policy. So I really like that. That's almost like an ego boost for us
Right.
because we go to the smaller ones and be like, dang, we changed that. We did that. And whereas some of the larger oil and gas clients and even, some of the global organizations we've worked with, it just takes a little bit longer for
Yeah.
us to see it, or we have to let them tell us in a testimonial.
Okay, that's good. So I know me and you, like we did that conversation. That was really good. We talked about remote and hybrid work. And I feel like that's something that I really want you to touch on because it's such a touchy subject in some rooms. And in some areas, people are like, I need the flexibility to take my kids where they need to go or do other things and work. So can you kind of speak to the importance of let's speak to both the remote work and the hybrid work.
Okay, yes. So remote work, we fell in love with it, right? During COVID. It was one of those things where we didn't know if we would be able to do our jobs remotely. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, I've always known I can do this. I don't need to be But the companies were saying, no, we're paying rent. You're gonna come back here so we can realize the value of the money we spent, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, they're throwing away the offices and they're now 100% remote.
Right.
We still need to feel like we're a part of a team.
Right.
Because if you don't feel like you're a part of a team, people are not going to give you their 100%. They
Right.
might even give you 75 these days. But it's like, what do I do to ensure that everyone is still gelling? And that's been a difficult thing for leaders, actually, because leaders want to be able to just tell you once and move on. Because, like you said, there's so many things on their list.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. You have to put extra care
Yeah.
into it. And that's where I think the leaders are like, I don't have time for all this extra care thing. What are
Right.
some things that I can do? And so I've always told clients, here's some things you can do. You can actually just kind of, have your check-ins, you have your team meetings, and yes, they're remote. They're on whatever online platform that you want to use. But at the same time, everyone is not an extrovert. You have
Right.
introverts on your team, and you need to do some real check-ins with them.
Yep.
like pick up the phone. Or if they're okay with doing it on an online platform, doing it just as a one-on-one. So you have to really focus in on your one-on-ones now. You have to focus in on giving truthful, really good feedback so they can know the behavioral changes that you need from them. But
Mhm.
also they have to be the change they want to see in their teams. So
Mm,
want them showing up and having their cameras on, you better do the same thing. You don't want them looking like they're multitasking. You need to do the same thing. All of the things have to happen that you want for them. They need to be modeling it as well.
that's good. That's good. And I think something I like that you said is you be the change that you want to see. And I think oftentimes leaders can forget that it really does. It starts at the head, and you're a direct reflection of how successful your team is going to be. And I feel like a lot of it can kind of get disengaged if we don't, if they don't understand the culture or the direction, even in a remote environment.
Yeah, because the thing is, did you change your mission statement? Did you change how you wanted your culture to be just because you went remote? If
Mm,
the answer is no, then you need to figure out what it's going to take to cultivate that same type of culture that you had in the office. Now we're going to have to figure out how to do that remotely. And there's so many, different, ways you can do that. Having those, you can still have your happy hour.
right.
People bring the wine and sit on Zoom and do their thing, and it's still happening and people are enjoying that. We can even still have your self-care moments for those companies that actually really do care about their teams, and they have these spaces for people to have self-care. You can bring in self-care experts to
Mhm.
do virtual workshops. One of my best friends, that's what she does. And so it's just like, companies will call and be like, I need you to do this for my team because I know we've been working really hard. And so think about your accountants right now,
Mhm.
tax season, these big accounting firms, and even the smaller, the mid-sized ones that work with businesses and with individuals. They're going to be, come May, they're going to be exhausted.
Right.
Even the week after Monday, they're going to be exhausted.
Right.
And it would be perfect opportunity to build trust with your team and to try to cultivate a different type of culture while having maybe a self-care day, even letting them take the day off, or bringing in someone to do kind of some self-care, sessions with them to allow them to just decompress.
I love that. Okay, now the hybrid model.
So the hybrid model, that one's hard because people will get comfortable with being in the office, being at home, and then you tell them they have to come in the office for twice a week or something.
Right.
And so it's a little bit more difficult because sometimes they resent you for doing that because they feel
Right.
like they're getting pulled both ways. However, it is a good way to continuously keep your culture going because
Mhm.
you see them and you get to actually touch and feel and be right in the space with them, and also start to, if you need to rebuild your rapport back up, because a lot of times when we're working away, that rapport is not there anymore. So you
Right.
want to be able to, this gives you an opportunity twice a week to build rapport with your team members again, understand who they are as people. And that's the thing, they're people. They're not people that work for you, they're people that go home to families. Life happens to them. They had a bad day. Their car was in an accident. Someone was sick. So understanding that still happens whether they're at home or in the office. And as a leader, you need to be able to, you know, um, adhere to that and treat them as such. Simon Sinek, I love him to death. He always says that leaders, some managers and people who are in leadership positions may see themselves as in charge, but
Mhm.
you're really not in charge. You're in service to those in your charge.
Mm.
And I always remember that because I'm like, that is perfect. If I don't get anything from Simon Sinek ever, that's perfect because you look at how people treat those who work for them.
Yep.
And again, it's a behavioral shift. It's a behavioral change that has to happen. And the reason why it's so hard for those employees who are coming back in the office is because now they do have to change their behavior. How they worked at home, they were way more comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? You can't wear your pajamas
Yeah.
and you can't be as loose. There is a level of professionalism that comes with going in the office. Now,
Yeah.
me, I show up the same whether I'm online or in the office, but a lot of people don't do that.
Correct. Correct. And that was something I learned during COVID. A lot of people don't do that, but we got the job done. So as we come to another cross section here,
Mhm.
there's some phenomenal things that you're up to, and something that I admire greatly is your retreat that you had for women executives, C-suite and higher. Um, that retreat in Arizona, like I've seen the videos, like this thing is amazing. And I love the fact that you understand the importance of self-care on that level. Because I often think when you're leading something and you're so driven to get it to the goal, you often forget about yourself. So I know you're making some pivots with that. So share with us what's next.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the Her Way retreat, it honestly, I did that one time thinking women need this.
Yeah.
Women, especially Black women and women of color, need somewhere to go because during that time, right after George Floyd was murdered, everything was so tense.
Yeah.
Companies were doing the whole right DEI everywhere thing, but they were not bringing in experts like me to do it. They were leaning in further and further on their staff and
Yeah.
their leaders who are already there, and they don't have time for it, so they were just so spent. And we're also, as Black women, during that time, we were like, I have Black and brown husbands, children, uncles, all of the best friends that I'm afraid for.
Hmm.
There was all of these things happening, and I thought we need to do something where they get to take a step back, even if it's for a weekend, and
Right.
let's build a community amongst us ourselves. We can do the professional development, but we also take the time out for ourselves to breathe. And I named it and coined it the Her Way retreat because I always wanted them to be able to feel like they can show up the way they wanted to.
Yes.
You're in the office, you have to, some women feel like they have to wear the dark color suits and things like that, depending on their level in their company's culture.
Hmm.
There, you could wear whatever you want. You can wear your hair however you want. You can wear, flip flops if you want to come in here this way. And no one's going to ask you why
Yeah.
you did that. It's just what you felt comfortable doing.
That's awesome.
So that was, once we did it the one time, people loved it, and then we did it again, and people were really into it. And what I'm hearing now, and the reason why when you said there's a pivot, what I'm hearing from my larger clients is we would like to sponsor that for a group of women executives within
Mhm.
our company. You have the professional development piece, you have
Wow.
the self-care. How about it's just come where it's not open to the public, where everybody else is
Yeah.
there, focus in on my team.
I love
Company X's Her Way retreat.
I
And
love that.
I thought, this is going to be amazing because when I was, I'm also a graduate of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And I
Mhm.
remember when I did the first one of the advisors, she said, this is going to be a part of your company.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be doing that on your own, like as just a side off. It's going to be part of Power Consulting. I can see
Mhm.
it. And it's exactly what she said. People were starting to ask for it. And
Oh,
so that's what we're working on now, is it's now a part of our service offering.
I love that. And I think that and I love the fact that your advisor in the 10K SV was so like could tell where how important this was and how more people need it, because we do need that space to kind of plug away and be still and talk to other women that are in that position, because you can't talk to everybody when you're in a certain level of leadership. You can't share your heart with everybody because you might scare some people.
Right?
So having a safe space is important.
Creating that safe space and putting the time and energy into it, which is what I loved about my team and the people that I work with to get that done, is we
Mhm.
put so much into that. We put heart into how are they going to see it when they walk in the room. We want it from the moment they drive up. And actually, even with the pre letters that are sent and the packages that they get at their homes with t-shirts and wine glasses and all of that stuff branded, everything is thought through and curated for them to feel like they're the only person on earth.
It's
And
an
that's what I
yeah,
wanted.
that's awesome. It's an experience, and it brings that exclusivity to it. It's
Yeah,
exclusive.
that exclusivity to it. And so and honestly, I think it makes more sense what I'm doing now, because companies have it in their budget to
Yep.
spend
Yep.
They can spend that kind of money. Whereas I've always struggled with asking just a regular individual, to pay $7,000, $9,000 for something,
Right.
even though I wholeheartedly feel like it's worth it because
Oh,
I know
heck
the
yeah.
tax bill of
Yeah.
it. But when a company says we have the budget to pay for 7 women or 10 women or whatever, let's go ahead and do that. And let's curate this specifically for those women and let this company shower their staff, again, building trust, building, that community within their organization, letting them know that they're seen and that they're heard. Now, that leader who just paid for those 7 to 8 women, those women now are committed to you because they know that you see them.
Yep. That's so important. So, Shantera, as we wrap up, they say, I want to touch on what's next for you. What are you working on, and how do we get in contact with you?
Okay, so I am working to build my team and this retreat that we just talked about, but also, just the change management and behavioral change and all of that stuff that I'm working and what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
These things, it's about this constant growth for me. It's
Yes.
about ensuring that nothing gets stale for my clients and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that, they know that, we are going to be those strategic partners for them. And
Yep.
so that's really that been my focus, is that business development piece of, hey, who needs what we're offering? And I'm just as intentional and picky about where my name goes and where my company's that little crown on my logo goes, as they would be about spending their money. So everybody is not going to be the perfect client, but I'm out there, scouring around trying to find who looks good next to us.
That's important because that speaks to your personal brand and the brand of your client and the brand of your company. And I think oftentimes as entrepreneurs in this entrepreneur space and just in life, sometimes we just are so quick to just give resources access without truly vetting and making sure it's a good partnership and the values align with what we're trying to achieve. So I think that is so important that you said that.
Yeah. And as far as finding me, a lot of people find me on LinkedIn.
Yes,
So,
they
so I have my videos that come out on Mondays, and so they see my face or see something or hear my voice. But yeah, finding me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, Shantera Chatman. Both of those are same, but powerconsulting.com is where all of the information about the company is, where we even have case studies on on our website that shows how we've helped some of our clients to achieve their goals. And I think that that's been valuable for a lot of our newer clients who are saying, I was out there reading this and I feel like this is what I need. I just didn't know what it was called, that kind of thing. So that's where I am. That's what we're doing. We're growing. We're changing cultures.
I love that. I love that. So as we end, they say, my question that I always ask is, what is your they say? Now you can take some time to think about it. But do you need me to kind of give you a little bit more?
Yes, because in my mind, I think I know where you're going, but tell me,
So
tell
when I
me.
say they say, it can be maybe somebody said a certain thing or you experienced something that said you wouldn't achieve what you're looking to achieve. So it can be me, whatever. So that's what they say is all about, how we defy the odds. That's the life I live.
Right. They say, or they said that that young girl that got that sassy attitude was not going to be all the things that she thought she was going to be.
I love it.
They said that's what they said, and I hope they're not saying it anymore because boy, am I proving them wrong.
Hey, that's cool. And that's the importance of they stay. And I thank you for taking this time with me on a Wednesday. I know we could have been doing anything with our time, but this is it's important to have intentional conversations and really figure out how we can impact change, not just locally, not just nationwide, but just globally. Like we're thinking big here. So, Shantera, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm glad that you answered the call. I wouldn't have want anybody else on here to talk about change management but you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for calling me, because I know sometimes I can go under my little rock and be gone, but you know how to find me, and
Yes, I
I
do.
appreciate I just want to say before we even close that I've been, even when I was kind of down and away, looking at, I saw everything that you were doing and how you've made your transition. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, that's my friend. She is killing it. And so I really appreciate that you think that I have something of value for your platform, because I have seen it to grow and I've seen it starting to change lives. And so thank you very much for having me.
Oh my God, my honor, my pleasure. And guys, that wraps up this Wednesday's episode of They Say. Thank you so much for sticking with us. And we will see you. I'll see you next week with another phenomenal guest that I just absolutely love, because I love everybody. All right, bye, y'all.